Hey everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year if you're watching a few days after. But I'm excited to show off about $10,000 of ancient world and US coin inventory. All of this is selling in tomorrow's Whatnot sale at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. But the more important thing is to show off just some of these incredible coins. I spent a lot of time researching them, and we're going to highlight about 20 to 25 and just talk about their history. Some of those are sort of modern 20th century items. Others of them date back to the Seleucids and the Indo-Scythians and the Macedonians. So I think it'll be really fun. Let's take a look at the items. There's also going to be an email list giveaway. So basically go to treasuretown.com and sign up for my email list. I don't spam unless you don't like hearing from me. So anyways, let's get into the unboxing, but it's going to be more so a history highlight. And I'll take a brief moment to talk about the Whatnot sale. I haven't done a lot viewing video in a while. This is like an advanced lot viewing video. Everything in front of me I'm going to have individual descriptions of. Same with these incredible coins. All of these items are going to be selling, most with pretty minimal start bids. I guess I can take a handful of these items and just give you a sense for what is going to be included, but a ton of interesting, everything from ancient Judean, that's Seleucid, and a lot of this will be reflected in, some of the highlights that I do, but denarii, Sassanid coins, there's a lot of Parthian coins. Those are some of the just highlights on the ancients. I'm not going to take too much time. Let's take a look at some of the, we have Morgan dollars of a wide range. We've got old Indian coins, Japanese, Mexican. We actually have some really nice new Mexican coins. There's like probably 20 or 30 Morgan and Peace dollars. We've got a range of some interesting British stuff, which I don't think the video has come out on, but Serbian, some metals, some mining tokens. So these are some actually nicer sort of Jubilee metals. We even got a small group of crowns in that will be fun to sell through. So again, all of the lists are posted. I also am going to have a sale on next, January 2nd at like 6:30 or 7 p.m. Varieties. Again, let's now though get into each of these coins, starting with Alexander the Great. I'll be back in a moment. This coin is an Alexander the Great dram minted shortly after his death in 323 BC. He'd been reigning the Macedonian Empire since the death of his father, Philip II, in 336. He conquered the Achaemenid Empire Persians. He also extended the empire into India, and it was viewed as the greatest military commander potentially ever to this day, but certainly at his time. This coin is silver. It's probably worth around 130 to 150 or more dollars, and features Hercules on the front of the coin and a seated portrait of Jupiter, along with Alexandro, or Alexander, his name, on the side of it. And again, many of these were produced after his death, so it's interesting to have this posthumous issue struck this right here. Let's then move to a similar coin, this time of the Ptolemaic kingdom. Here we have a beautiful Ptolemaic tetradrachm. This is the Greek Ptolemaic ruler Ptolemy VI Philometor, and he was probably viewed as one of the last kings of Ptolemaic Egypt, as it was a big power. He fought the Seleucids, which was another one of the post-Macedonian Empire states, and he was constantly trying to sow unrest, playing off the rulers against each other to weaken it, and it really worked quite well. He was actually expelled by his brother in 164 BC, but was able to claw his way back after the people of Alexandria, Egypt, kicked the brother out, and he passed away again in Syria while he was fighting, trying to sow that unrest. Here we have a Ptolemaic eagle, which would be featured on US coins about 2,000 years later after Teddy Roosevelt got involved, but a beautiful eagle and a large silver coin. This one's valued at 130 to 150 and up. Meanwhile, this coin, struck in 139 BC in the Roman Republic, is a denarius of A. Sperilius Munier, and you can see that by the signature right below what's known as a biga. Now, the biga is because GA is sort of the suffix, and BI shows two horses. That's why it's a quadriga, is a 4-horse chariot. So underneath it says Roma on the front of the item. We also see a stylized portrait of Roma, and this one is an early issue after the Punic Wars, and around 211 to 208 BC, they formed this silver denarius denomination. This piece of history is probably worth $75 or more, but Really fantastic eye appeal and a very fun item struck during the Numantine War when the Romans were fighting against the Celtiberian tribes, which is in sort of the Iberian Peninsula, Spain area, and they ended up winning that after a lot of back and forth, but so much history to uncover on these coins. This famous coin is a widow's mite, or a Hasmonean dynasty ancient Judean bronze coin. The denomination is called Pruda, but basically the Judeans were ruled over by the Seleucids, which came out of the Macedonian Empire, until they tried to persecute Jews after there was some internal strife. That led to the Maccabean revolt, which ultimately had the Hasmonean family and then dynasty sort of control, and there was some conflict between the Sadducees and the Pharisees, but these were some of at the height with, I believe, Hyrcanus and Alexander Jannaeus, some of the small bronze money that would have appeared later in Bible stories, focusing on giving even no matter what your economic situation is. So fascinating piece of ancient Judean history right there. This one I would estimate at $15 or more. This Sakani coin is an ancient French, ancient Celtic item. It's a quinarius, which is a half denarius struck out of silver, and this would have been struck right in the 1st century BC. Now, this was right around the time that the Sakani tribes, which were sort of part of the Celtic Gallic peoples, were fighting against Julius Caesar, who conquered them in a conquest from 58 to 50 BC. There's a lot more context around that sort of strife, which I'll hope to share on some future videos. But that was the tribe that would have struck these. There were also lots of other tribes, but basically they had united with the tribes against the Helvetii, which is modern day Switzerland. But there were, the Roman Empire kept expanding, and Caesar was able to proclaim some massive political and military wins across the Celtic lands. On the eastern front, this Indo-Scythian dram of King Azes the First, which would have been minted from 58 to 12 BC, features King Azes on a horseback and Zeus on the other side of the item. There were some sort of Greek and Central Asian confluence here. Technically, the Scythians are sort of nomadic peoples. They start in modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan and end up expanding more towards modern-day India as things go on. They're sort of drowned out after the death of this king, though, and the Kushans sort of take control within India, but this was sort of the height of the Indo-Scythian time frame, again, expanding eastwards with some sort of Greek, and I believe it's called Karothsi, which is Aramaic type script on the items, relatively debased. They were often minted in frontier mints, and the silver purity was quite low, but it's a great piece of history from the 1st century BC of a very influential king. Another long-standing empire was the Parthian Empire. Here, this coin of Phraates IV would have been made from 38 to 2 BC. They formed out of the Seleucid Empire around 250 BC on the eastern side and sort of modern-day Iran. They ended up giving way to the Parthians in 224 as they weakened due to a bunch of ongoing conflict with the Roman Empire, as well as sort of some succession disputes. But on the reverse here, we have a really interesting portrait of an archer. Arsaces was the founder of the dynasty, and so we see him on the reverse, while we have Phraates' portrait on the front of the coin. But I would call the value of this in the 35 and up range. I'm often pretty conservative with the values, but curious on your thoughts, and if I'm off on something, please comment down below. Here we have one of the most affordable ancient coins that I think has great eye appeal. It's a Sassanid dram from about 591 to 628 AD. This is Khusro II. Khusro I was a very long-reigning emperor, and both he and the Khusro II fought a lot against the Byzantines. Now, Khusro II's son actually overthrew him in the beginning of 590. He came back shortly thereafter, and they were taken down after, there were a few other Sassanid short-lived rulers, but basically by the expansion of the Rashidun Caliphate, as Islam and the Islamic dynasties spread across that Iranian region. Here we have a Zoroastrian temple. They actually took over from the Parthians with a focus going back to the Persian roots, and that religion was definitely part of it, but the headdress is very iconic and it's a great coin, probably $20 and up. This Byzantine coin features a nice portrait of Christ. It was minted from 1028 to 1034, the anonymous phallus. This is a Class B coin of Romanus III, but Basil had reigned for 50 years, dying in about 1025, and the succession fight was no easy one for the Byzantines. On the back it says Jesus Christ, King of Kings, alongside a jeweled cross, and is a relatively beautiful example of history. The Byzantine Empire at this point was pretty weak. They were fighting against often the Seljuk Turks, who would then be sort of conquered by the Mongols a few centuries later, but the Turks were invading the Byzantine, which is really the Eastern Roman Empire, and damaging Constantinople, which would take another 4 centuries to fall. But beautiful coin. I would estimate this one at $25 and up. Talk about a difficult coin for the Byzantines. This item is a Mehmet the Conqueror Aksha. This was the base silver unit produced around 1461 AD at the Edirne Mint, which was the birthplace of Mehmet, who conquered the Byzantine capital of Constantinople and converted it to Istanbul, which it still stands to this day. This one has a really nice strike and is made of relatively fine silver, and again would be a really interesting coin of a ruler that conquered and made huge impacts on the world. He would then continue into the Balkans, though his successor, Bayezid II, would be much more peaceful, focused on arts, culture, and solidifying many of the territorial expansion that Mehmed the Conqueror had done. Moving to an entirely different segment of the world, this Tokugawa Shogunate 100 Mun coin is a really interesting example of a destabilizing item. This 100 Mun was very inflationary in a sense, and it was produced from about 1835 to 1870, in that they had previously been using a copper coin about 5.5 times smaller that represented 1 mun. So when they introduced this at 100 mun, but only 5.5 times the copper, they had massive runaway inflation, commodity prices spiraled, and it was a real issue for the Tokugawa Shogunate in the Edo period. This was the same time that Commodore Perry from the United States was coming across and opening up Japan from its long-standing period of isolation, so there was a lot going on in this time period, but this thing didn't help. 2.5 of these would be a small shoe silver bar money, and 10 of these would be the next coin, which is a 1 bu silver coin. Here we have an Ansei era 1 bu silver bar money. This is a really interesting piece of history as well. You can look at the sakura flowers for some identification purposes. This one has an upside down one there at the top, but this would have been produced from approximately 1859 to 1868, right at the end of the Edo period when Commodore Perry is opening it up again from America and getting rid of the isolationist tendencies, sort of imposing the Western might on Japan. But these items were designed to reform the currency, often used in trade with some of the limited Dutch and Chinese merchants that would have occurred. But really interesting coin. Again, one of these would be 10 of those larger 100 mon coins, and 4 of them would be a ryu, the gold unit. So super, super neat stuff. After that, we have one of these Japanese bean money, as they're called, or mameitagin, forgive any mispronunciation. This would have been likely produced from approximately 1736 to 1865 in a percentage of silver ranging from 15% to 80% or so, though there was a lot of debasement, and you can see the other end is crude. There can be some further identification. I'm not really an expert in it, but these items were basically bridging the gap between the mon, which was the copper coin that we saw, as well as the bar money or larger denominations. This was a great intermediary, and so it was really, really interesting to see. And I don't want to show the address, but I got a super fun unboxing from APMEX that is going to be related to the giveaway, and there's some silver inside, so I'm just going to flip it over, show you the coins, and explain the way to enter the giveaway. And here's a fresh look at some of these items, including a new unboxing. This is a Year of the Dragon APMEX, and I'm going to open it up here. So I'm a big fan of the design, really interesting sort of proof surfaces, and I love the creativity that people get once they have, a nice press and nice dies to strike coins from, but then also don't have to be a government round because you can really get pretty cool and nifty designs out of things. So super fun to kick off 2024 with this round. We'll also take a closer look over here, and it's got a fun sort of Christmas pouch. These are going to be at least one of these coins. I may give away the Merry Christmas just because I think it's a super fun Christmas to remember. I'll include some Treasure Town provenance on it, but beautiful Proof Strike Merry Christmas colorized rounds. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the colorized items, but the way to do this giveaway, you're going to want to go to my website, treasuretown.com, sign up for the email list, and I'll be sending out an email with instructions on how to enter. It'll basically just be like click and enter, but you have to be on the email list to get it. That's going to be releasing at the end of this month. So anyways, Merry Christmas from me and atmex.com to check out their interesting inventory. They've got coins, numismatic stuff. They also have a lot of bullion, so will be fun to follow up there, and a super fun sneak peek exclusive look at this 2024 Year of the Dragon silver round. Here we have a large 5 franc coin, 1846, of King Louis Philippe I. He was actually a supporter of the French Revolution, but sort of got out of the movement as they killed King Louis I believe it should have been 16th at that point, and was exiled. He later came back and was a big friend, sort of 1830 to 1848, of bankers and sort of the institutional class. This is 90% silver, probably worth $30, potentially a little bit more. It's got a nice patina, but the 1848 revolution took him down. Louis Napoleon III, Napoleon I's nephew, then gets instituted as emperor in 1852, but great piece of chunky French history. Another regent that was actually ruling as the same time as King Louis, this is a crown coin of Queen Victoria, who reigned from 1837 to 1901. She ascended to the throne after her uncle, King William IV, died. She married her cousin, Prince Albert, and he died in 1861. She reigned for a long time after that. On the reverse, we've got the classic scene of St. George, the sort of patron saint of England, challenging a dragon who was extorting, presumably, a princess, and getting divine inspiration from the Christian god to make that takedown. Anyways, this item is probably worth $50 or more. A nice 92.5% silver, very, very weighty planchet. You may not know the full history of the peace dollar. This is a 1922 coin, but in 1921, upon the issuance of the Pittman Act, we were striking a lot of silver dollars, often for use abroad by the British, and they had a peace design to commemorate the end of World War I. The first design had a broken sword clutched between the eagle's talons, but that actually was viewed as symbolizing defeat, so they quickly scratched that. Anyways, this is a nice item. There's a lot of VAMs to look for in addition to really valuable versions of it, so can stay tuned for a separate video on that, but really, really nice item in front of us with some interesting history. Bet you didn't know that. They also circulated a lot more out west, sort of towards Nevada, California, versus the eastern counterpart. Moving on to some graded coins, here we have a Trajan Decius Antoninianus. It's a double denarius struck out of silver. The denarius dates back and is a classic Roman denomination that started in 211, again with the Punic Wars, carries all the way over to Gordian III, who was about 2 emperors back of Trajan Decius. He was a ruler and military commander. He was actually killed fighting the Goths, who were sort of Germanic people. The Visigoths and the Ostrogoths caused a lot of problems for the Roman Empire, but this was during the crisis phase, a lot of debasement of the coinage. I would predict that in AU, this is going to be at least a $100 coin, and just a really interesting Roman imperial history here. He was the first person to persecute Christians. He forced everybody to make a Roman god sacrifice as a way to figure out who they were. So definitely an opposition from that perspective, but beautiful, beautiful coin. Going back a bit, this coin is a denarius of Julia Domna, struck between 193 and 217 AD. She married Septimius Severus in about 188, AD, before his ascension to the throne. She was from modern-day Syria, which was the real east part of the Roman Empire, so it was a very tactical marriage. She actually saw and held in her hands Geta, who was co-ruling with Caracalla, the sons of Septimius Severus, as Caracalla and his troops assassinated Geta. She would be taking her own life in 2017, or not 2017, 217, as the empire sort of starts falling away and Macrinus seizes power before a state of unrest with Elagabalus and other emperors that did not do a great job in the empire. Speaking of some conflicts and power struggles, this coin here is a 1706 silver croat of the Charles III, the Pretender. This was at the time where Spain Charles II died with no apparent heir, and there was either Philip V of Anjou or Charles III, who was of the Habsburgs, and both claimed the throne. This was a Catalonian coin, and so Catalan, modern-day sort of Barcelona and the Catalan province, was very loyal to Charles. They initially or eventually settled, and Philip was the fifth was the ruler, and they had some sort of claims for Catalan to be more autonomous, but not all of those were followed through on. Anyways, I would estimate in XF45 this coin is at least a $130 item. This isn't going to be the highest value coin, but do you know what the story of French Indochina is? Well, it's Southeast Asia. Actually, the French, starting in the mid to late 1800s, had colonized the area. There were a few different parts of modern-day Vietnam, which is where this is coming from, that would make up sort of French. There was Cochin China, as well as they seized Cambodia, Laos, Annam, and I believe one other province, and basically extracted the land for all of its natural resources. They built some infrastructure, but it wasn't to help the people. It was really just to facilitate that flow. And in 1947, they would fight the first war. I want to say it's the first Indochina War or something along that. From 1947 to 1954. The second Indochina War was really the Vietnam War. That was after the Geneva Accords post-World War II split it according to sort of a communist and a pro-Western side. And so they also gave independence to Laos and Cambodia at that phase. This is a very chunky and classic Russian coin. This is a 5 kopeck, a little bit discolored on this particular example, but 1780. It's a Empress Catherine the Great who reigned from 1762 to 1796. She did a lot of modernization of Russia with political savvy, some Enlightenment reforms. She tried to get in and abolish the serfdom, but she was not successful, nor was she effective in creating more localized government. But she fought in the Crimean area, the Black Sea area, and had some good military successes. She's also thought to potentially have been involved with Peter III, her husband's death, early in her reign. Anyways, these 5 kopeck coins are some of the largest, slightly common items in this shape. I would be surprised if it went for way over $20, but there's also a lot of collectors interested in these types of items, so we'll keep you posted. And here's a fascinating story before we get to the unboxing of potential Icelandic material. We've got an 1802 Netherlands East Indies 1 stiver, a bonk coin. And what that means is these coins were often struck in the Netherlands East Indies, which was a large expanse owned by the Dutch, but Napoleon, of course, takes over mainland Netherlands in his European expansion. So they set up the Batavian government. This was basically a company and country that was focused on trading spices and other regions in Indonesia. And so they would take these large copper bars from Japan, melt them down, and cut them up and stamp them with this value while they couldn't get any inflows from the mainland and sort of general Dutch Empire mints given Napoleon's involvement. This one will probably only go for $15 or so, even though it's a super historic item and not super common. Really interesting, chunky piece of copper from a time when Napoleon was ravaging Europe. And I had opened this up, but I saw it was from vineyardseries.com. This is at Cape Cod Series. One of my good friends had gone to Iceland, actually, which is an incredible vacation, and he had mentioned he might send me some coins from over there, and so I wanted to give him a shout out and take a look at some of this interesting coin history here. We're already seeing, it's kroner is still what they're using, and I have a little bit of information. I think that most of this is going to be relatively modern Icelandic coins. I'm actually not sure when the Icelandic coins begin in terms of just being produced at all, but interesting fact is the Orar, that's the same AU that's the aureus, that was like the gold coin of the Roman Empire, the gold aureus. It's the same sort of etymological root in terms of how they get their cents equivalent. I'm actually not as positive where krona is going to come from, but it's the same, the kroner, it's a Danish denomination, Swedish, really Scandinavian, so it matches well the Iceland. I know that there was recently, I think, a large volcano over there, so I'm hoping everybody's okay on that front, but interesting to see how they have the 5 Orar. I think that it's these are going to be basically demonetized or just not worth much at this point from a spending money perspective, but it's a really fun coin history to have. And again, thank you to Cooper, the Vineyard Series, for forwarding these items along. Any sort of sent in coins from a friend, I always put those aside. These are not going to be turning up in any of the upcoming sales, but just wanted to give him a shout out and a thank you for this awesome group of coins in front of me, and a great way to wrap it up. I'll see you all on Whatnot tomorrow, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. for the next 2 Tuesdays. That's normally my slot. And then, of course, go to treasuretown.com and sign up for the email list so you can look out for the upcoming giveaway. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to head on over to treasuretown.com and sign up for our email list to stay up to date on everything that's happening, whether it's auction updates, exciting new inventory drops, coin collecting news, or general informational resources. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on another.